Well, joining us now is our two former justices of the Supreme Court, Justice Madan Lokur and Justice Deepak Gupta are with us tonight. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us. First, I'd like to ask you both on Justice Chandrachud himself. Justice Madan Lokur, a huge burden of expectations on him, given his track record on, values like personal liberty, on press freedom, etc. Would you say that, much of the country is looking at him now to see what he will do?
Oh yes, certainly. I think we've had a bit of a problem in the Supreme Court over the last maybe about 5 or 6 years, and it has not been able to give any direction to our justice delivery system. But some changes were made when Justice Ramanna became the Chief Justice, and of course when Justice Lalit became the Chief Justice. So really the expectations are very, very high. And the good thing is that Justice Chandrachud has sufficient time to bring about the changes and to bring about reforms and in fact transform the justice delivery system. So yes, you're right, the expectations are very high.
Justice Deepak Gupta, the expectations are high, but the challenges are also high, aren't they? Whether it is about pendency of cases, vacancies in the courts, and we'll talk about the collegium system in just a moment, but he faces a tough challenge also.
Yeah, definitely. You see, it's not it's a high position, but it comes with all the, which every high position gets. It comes with all its thorns, it comes with that. It's just not a crown of roses. But having known Justice Chandrachud for the last 4 or 5 years, you see, for my expectations from him are like one, that he should be doing more for the general citizenry, as a protector of the human rights. One is the court is an adjudicator of dispute, but it also is a protector of the human rights of the citizens. So there I feel where the Supreme Court fell back a little, and I hope that under his tenure, because he has a long tenure of 2 years. I mean, I wish it was longer, but, in our system, Justice Lalit was only there for 74 days. But Justice Lalit did show that even in 74 days, you can achieve a lot. So he set the bar very high, and I hope Justice Chandrachud can set the bar higher, even go further.
Right. Justice Lokur, this is all happening at a time when we're seeing this controversy over the appointment of the higher judiciary judges to the Supreme Court and the High Court being reignited, with the comments of the Law Minister recently, who criticized the collegium system currently, which selects judges. Also, in a sense, warning that the government would not remain silent forever. What did you think of those comments, first of all? And what do you make of the criticism of this system that currently exists?
Well, there are two things. One is that the comments made by him were totally uncalled for. In fact, it is the government, which is creating all kinds of problems. Just take a few recent examples. About 24th or 25th of September, the Supreme Court recommended Justice Dipankar Datta as a judge of the Supreme Court. 1.5 months have gone by and the government has done nothing about it, right? They had also said that Justice Muralidhar should be transferred as Chief Justice of Madras High Court around the same time. Again, the government has done nothing about it. Why? These are questions. It's nice to talk about filling up vacancies and all that. But when the Supreme Court says fill up a vacancy, the government says, no, we're not going to fill up a vacancy. Mr. Saurabh Kripal, an advocate, excellent advocate, his file is pending with the government for the last, I don't know how many years. Why is that? So it's okay for the government to say, yeah, let's fill up vacancies, Supreme Court is doing nothing. But what is the government doing? They should also answer these questions, right? So I think the, comments made by him were uncalled for.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Now, as far as the collegium system is concerned, again, to some extent, yes, it's not as transparent as it should be as far as the courts are concerned. But again, the government is equally transparent, if not more, more opaque, right? Why are they insisting? Why did they insist that Justice Akhil Qureshi should not be appointed as Chief Justice of Madhya Pradesh High Court? What was the reason? Did they tell anybody? Are they telling anybody why Justice Dipankar Gupta is not being appointed to the Supreme Court? So the government is equally, if not more, opaque, right? So if there has to be a change, it has to be a change across the board.
Very strong comments from you, sir. Justice Deepak Gupta, would you concur with Justice Madan Lokur's views on the Law Minister's comments? And, I'm sure you would agree that it's not a perfect system, that we have for the appointment of judges. And if I could ask you, in your view, what would be a better way to do this?
See, I don't think the collegium system is working very well. To that extent, I sort of tend to agree with the Law Minister that there needs to be an improvement. But I think do you have a better system? I don't think so. The way this government functions, I don't think we can have government totally, if it comes in control over the appointments, we're heading for disaster. So there has to be the collegium system is the best we can have, but it needs improvement. Even in the judgment, in the NJC judgment where Justice Lokur was a party, they had made recommendations that there should be a permanent secretariat attached to the collegium. There should be, very objective ways of assessing the efficiency, the integrity of a judge who's being considered for appointment or to the Supreme Court, of any lawyer or judge who's being considered for appointment to the High Court or the Supreme Court. So that the Supreme Court was, I think, fell behind. If they had made a secretariat, made it much more, where you feel that the people are doing the right people are coming. But I agree with Justice Lokur totally. Justice Dipankar Datta, unanimously chosen by the collegium. He is a judge of 2006. He was overlooked for Chief Justiceship in the sense that he cannot become Chief Justice of India. He has an impeccable record. Justice Muralidhar from Odisha being transferred to Chennai. Now, if the government disagrees, they have a right to disagree. But where is that disagreement being recorded and sent back to the collegium? Now the government has found a new method. Sit over the file.
Exactly.
And that is going to cause great damage to the judiciary. Now just imagine, if this new collegium recommends some other names for the Supreme Court, and like what has happened in the past, the government approves those names and sits over Justice Dipankar Datta's name, that poor man is suffering for no fault of his. So there has to be, I feel, the Supreme Court should insist that first you make the appointments we have done, then only we'll make new recommendations. Otherwise, this is a method of holding the Supreme Court collegium to ransom. We will not, we'll sit over the files and you keep sending new names.
Strong words from you as well, Justice Gupta, holding the Supreme Court collegium to ransom. And as you pointed out as well, Justice Madan Lokur, that the government technically has no say in the appointment of judges, and yet they can interfere with that process by sitting on files for years on end.
But may I add one thing?
Yes, sir.
I want to say that we blame the government all the time and all. But I am very sorry that Justice Akhil Qureshi, who was one of our finest judges, his name was never even recommended by the collegium.
Yes.
And we don't know why. Justice Lokur, would you agree with that? And yes. And what can the judiciary itself do, given the genuine opacity, in appointments of judges, to improve this system? Certainly, the government making appointments, I think everybody would agree, is something that shouldn't happen.
Yes. Well, I entirely agree with Justice Deepak Gupta, and in fact, I've been saying it for a long time, that, we do need to have a change in the collegium system. It's not perfect. Okay, let's accept that. So the next question is that, can we bring about some changes? And if we bring about some changes, will it improve the collegium system? The answer to that is yes. Now, what are those changes? Those changes are, you should have some kind of a criteria, some kind of an objective criteria for selecting judges, right? So that fingers are not raised, fingers are not pointed, and you select the best persons. Okay, that is one way of doing it. The secretariat is another way, which was actually mentioned in the judgment. finding out, is there some person who is perhaps better than the best, who has been overlooked? And if so, why? Right? These are issues that the collegium must consider. Now, it's all right for the collegium to say, well, we've selected the best persons. Yes, you have selected the best persons, but there are some who are better than the best. Why have you not selected them? Now, that, those reasons perhaps cannot be disclosed. It may not be a good idea to disclose those reasons. But certainly consider those persons also, right? And if you can't select them now, perhaps maybe a little later because of their seniority or whatever it is. Now, if you're going to start appointing persons who are, low down in the seniority and overlook much better judges who are higher up in the seniority, obviously people are going to ask questions. So
right.
The Supreme Court collegium must have changes. They need to discuss it, and they need to discuss it threadbare. And this, I think, is the right moment to do it before the government, launches an attack on the collegium and tries to displace it completely.
Are you anticipating that?
Yes, I am anticipating that. Yes, I think the recent statements that have been coming from the law minister, I think are a clear enough indication that they're going to move, and they're going to move pretty quickly.
Interesting times. Thank you very much, Justice Madan Lokur and Justice Deepak Gupta, for joining us on that important story. Two former judges of the Supreme Court, they're weighing in on this confrontation now between the government and the higher judiciary over the appointment of judges. Thank you.
Thank you.